with that, talking about getting on a roll, it seems like the football team, I don't want to say now or never, but you're facing a Texas Tech team on the road that's 5-1, not in the top 25, but playing really good football right now. And they've won a lot of one-possession games, something that Baylor struggled with. That game's in Lubbock. And you look at what Baylor has faced. Talk about Utah, Colorado, BYU, and Iowa State are a combined 20-4. But then you throw Texas Tech on top of that, and that group that you have faced Big 12 opponents. One of those games, not a Big 12 game, but you're basically facing 25-5 through your first Big 12 games of the season. And that's just tough. I mean, for a team that's looking to bounce back from a tough year last year, and then that's the hand that they're dealt. It's just reality. You want to take advantage of 8 home games last year rather than have to do it this way. 4 or 5 of these games have been on the road when you look at that stretch. And it's just been, I mean, I don't know that you go into Lubbock, you want to have confidence and you want to build off of, close losses, et cetera. But how does this team mentally just withstand all of that, facing another road crowd, and obviously David Aranda knowing and understanding the situation that he's in this season?
Yeah, and isn't it crazy? I mean, you look at that schedule, it almost flipped. Because, when you were looking at the beginning of the season, Kansas was kind of a dark horse candidate. Yeah. Oklahoma State was, up there among the top
Always
3 or 4 in the team. So it's weird how it kind of flipped, because I don't know that, everybody expected Colorado to be what they've been. And certainly, with Iowa State, you kind of thought maybe, but I don't know that anybody thought they would be this good. But yeah, just the way it fell, that you faced the best teams in the league, including Tech. You faced the best teams in the league these first, including that one, first 4 conference games. So, and it does get easier after that. But I think this is a really important. You hate to say must win, but I think this one kind of is, and it's on the road, tough environment. Like you said, the Tech fans, particularly the students, can get rowdy. And so that is a tough environment to play in. But yeah, I think just for mentally and confidence wise, they really need to, and I'll say this, Colt, if they're at least in the game in the fourth quarter, that's going to be a step up, but they really need to win one of these. Like you said, Tech, they're sitting there at 5-1. They've had 4 one-score wins. So that's what they've done compared to Baylor. Baylor hasn't been able to pull out those one-score wins. So hopefully it changes this week. As Coach Aranda talked about, you need to put 4 quarters together. You haven't come close to that yet. Yeah. When you got off to the great start against Iowa State, then the second half, which has been the strength of this defense, the defense just, fell flat in that second half. I think gave up 24 unanswered points in that game. So, put that one behind you. I think as much as you don't want to sit on a loss, I think it did fall at a good time in terms of the bye, just to get healed up a little bit. And you are getting some players back. So hopefully that'll make a difference, particularly if Caden Jenkins is able to play, Kendrick Simpkins being back, Carl Williams being more at 100%. Those things will help a defense. But you need to get more of a rush up front, certainly against this Tech team. Yeah. This has been a very explosive Tech offense, as always, seems like. But yeah, you got to turn it around, and I think it starts this week.
Yeah, it does. And, you mentioned it. Can you call it a must-win?
Yeah.
I mean, that's – in theory, no. Your ultimate goal is a bowl game. But the issue that it creates, you lose this game, and that means you have to go 4-1 down the stretch.
Right.
And that's – I mean, you do get Oklahoma State, TCU at home, Kansas at home, but then you have to figure out where does your, the 2 road victories come in. Is it West Virginia? Is it Houston? Kind of looks like the most likely one now, but it's not an ideal situation to be in, to know we have to go 4-1 down the stretch when you haven't gone had not had a 4-1 stretch dating back to the beginning of 2022. So it's been a while since they've done it. It just puts them in a really tough situation. And I think for me, what it comes down to, Tech's defense is vulnerable. It's had its moments, and you don't want to put it all on the offense. Dave Aranda's not approaching it that way, but I think if you go into this game and you feel like you can match Tech's ability to score early with your own offense, maybe that allows them to settle in. And kind of keep that game at an even kill, because if you get in there and it snowballs, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen on the road. We saw it in the second half of the Iowa State game. Fortunately, they have faced other environments. If you look at Utah, which Utah is now a completely different Utah than the one Baylor faced, but then in Colorado on the road and obviously Iowa State. But they need to keep this game particularly close. And I think then if you can give Sawyer Robertson a chance to win it in the fourth quarter, he's shown that ability to make big plays and make plays at crucial moments. You just have to be in the position to be able to do it. If he would have been given that position, that opportunity against Iowa State, maybe he comes through and gives you and delivers in those key moments. He just didn't have that opportunity against Iowa State because it got so out of hand.
Yeah, and I think this is one that I know they did that against BYU, or was it Utah, where they got down 21-0. I mean, you can't afford that against Tech because what they'll do is they'll turn 21 into 42 real quick. Yeah. So you've got to, like you said, you got to stay in the game. I do think it's a lot on Dave Aranda's defense this week. I do think Baylor offense, they're going to have some success against Tech. I have little doubt of that. But you've got to be able to get some stops because I don't know that Baylor's offense can keep up with Tech. That's why you've got to have some defensive stops. You got to get off the field. You need some turnovers. That's how they beat them a couple of years ago. Was they, as he said on Monday, they got them behind the chains and wound up with a bunch of picks, a bunch of interceptions. So you need something like that. You need some turnovers. You need some stops, and that's what'll keep you in this game. Because again, if you get down 21-0 against this team, Joey McGuire being on the other side, that's going to turn into 35, 42, 49. So you really need to stay in the game early. And I do think this offense can score points and will score points against Tech, but you can't, afford to give up. They gave up 43 to Iowa State. You can't afford to do that against Tech. You need to hold them down. I would say if the game's in the 30s, Baylor's going to have a good chance. But if it gets up into the 40s, I don't think Baylor will have much of a chance against this Red Raider offense.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways you look at the Colorado game and the path it was taking before, 2 touchdowns with no time left on the clock, right? Like you have the overtime touchdown and obviously the Hail Mary. Right. In that range, that seems to be the recipe for success in this game. The difference between Colorado and Tech is that Tech has a pretty good running back. And if they do get a lead, not only can they score the ball quickly, they can just say, hey, we're just going to run the football with Taj Brooks as well. So I'm really curious to see, I looked at that Colorado game and what Baylor did defensively for basically 4 quarters, all but the last Hail Mary. Right. If they can in any way get close to what they did in that game, you're not going to get as many sacks because Tech's offensive line is a little bit better than Colorado's, at least at this point, and they're going to run the football better. But I think in the secondary, keeping things in front of you, preventing the big play, obviously most of the time is key. I think if it's going to be competitive, Baylor will have a shot late. But if they let it get away from them, it's just going to be tough to keep up, as you've mentioned, for the reason you've mentioned. And I'm really curious, after a bye week, what Dave Aranda, especially coming off that Iowa State performance, what he has ready for this Tech defense offense and what he's going to be able to showcase. Getting guys back helps, but Dave Aranda in a 2-week period, I mean, from a defensive standpoint, you kind of trust him against anyone. You just hope he can put it on the entire team can put it on the field defensively.
Yeah, I think that will be key. And like you said, Dave has had some extra time to get ready for this Tech offense. My guess is they probably prepared for it some even in the offseason, in the summer or back in the spring. But now they've had those extra days to get ready for them. But I do think the biggest thing is they were able to heal up. But yeah, I would expect that Dave's going to have some things ready for Tech's offense. Again, I think you've got to put pressure on the quarterback. Have done that very little over the last couple of games, particularly against Iowa State. Really no pressure against Iowa State. So you've got to get back to that. Like you said, in that Colorado game, I believe it was 8 sacks. So if you can get back to that, or at least just putting some pressure, you don't even have to land him every time, but man, put some pressure on him and make him, make his feet, move a little bit. So I think that'll be a key in this one is you got to put Baron Morton under a little bit of pressure and make him feel the heat.